Om Satchidananda Rupaya Vishwotpatyadi Hetave Tapatraya Vinashaya Shri Krishnaya Vayam Numaha. Janmadhyasya yatonvayaditarataschatteshvabhignaswarat Tene Brahmahradaya Adi Kavayihyanti Yatsurayaha Tejo Varimradam Yatha Vinimayo Yatra Trisargo Mrisha Dhamna Svena Sada Nirasta Kuhakam Satyam Param Dhimahi Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Vedyam Vastavamatra Vastu Shivadam Tapatrayon Mulanam Shri Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kim Va Parerishwaraha Sadyo Hridyavarudya Tetra Kritibihi Shushrushrubhistakshana. Hari Om and greetings from Orlando. We often read, the devil is in the details, whether it's a legal agreement or a recipe. And if this is the case, then divinity is also in the details, in our scriptures and how we care. The devil is in the details. People capitalize on this. When you sign up for a contract and you don't know about this fee for breaking the contract, you're capitalized upon. Divinity in the details is captivating. Here in Orlando, I've just completed Shiva Manasa Puja. And in one of the steps, we offer Naivedya. And our idea of Naivedya is you buy rasmalai from Nanak's and from the freezer and you give this to Bhagwan. Warm it up yourself. How Bhagwan Acharya Shankara offers Naivedya to Bhagwan Shiva is surreal. That the water is not just water, it is water, which means no chlorine. It is water that is fragrant also. Like here in Florida, the water doesn't smell very good. And the water is sweet. And we think water is tasteless, but after you've run a lot or exercised a lot, that water is most delicious. See, all of these details shows how much one cares, correct? For our infant, we don't microwave milk or formula. We boil this on a stove because he's so young. We need to make sure that nothing is happening to his immunity system. When you become an old man like me, then we don't even microwave it. You just drink cold, cold liquids and eat cold food. We tend to have a feeling that Srimad Bhagavatam is complex. This is why so few people even approach this study. We're more oriented towards Ramayana, correct? Our whole lives, we know about Ram Leela. There was a Ramayana television serial. Srimad Bhagavatam, when oriented with Vedanta, is not complex. These details are to make us feel
we find. The third skanda was completed with Kapila Upadesha. And I can't stop saying enough about Kapila Upadesha. I've already made a note that I must teach only this at some retreat, wherever I go, whenever I go. And so I want to share some more thoughts with all of you because it's so lovely. Devi Devahuti asks, how do I become like you? Joyous, you're independently joyous. So Rishi Kapila answers saying, you have to treat your experiences like a dream. In a dream, if you don't know you're dreaming, then you experience the pain and suffering of that dream. But if you know you're dreaming, there's no pain or suffering. All of our experiences are dreamlike in the sense that they're relative. They come, they go. If you know that, there's no pain or suffering. He shares, that sadhana is fuel-like. When there's a fire pit, and there's wood, and there's, say, paper, and you light it, that fuel burns up itself, correct? The wood burns all the remaining wood. How do you sadhana? You offer sadhana with your body, mind, intellect, ego, and slowly you stop identifying with that same body, mind, intellect, ego. This shows us we have to make the best use of this fuel, of this equipment. Rishi Kapila says, bhakti melts the metallic hook that connects Purusha. Suppose you go in to hug someone. You're wearing a very nice sari, and someone else has a nice sari on too. And your sari gets caught onto their sari. And you want to preserve your sari, right? And you want to go eat food. You want to get in line first, and that person is slowing you down. So you have to unhook yourself, right? So now extrapolating that is happy, but now I've depended on articles being circumstances. Bhakti melts that hook. So what happens? Purusha no longer depends on Prakriti. He shares that bhakti is of a tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic type. This is really cool. Tamasic bhakti is when you feel Bhagwan, your creator, her or his only role is to punish you. And that's why you always stay away from God, because you don't want to be punished. That's that. So you feel that Bhagwan is a dictator. Rajasic bhakti is when you have a relationship with God because he's your banker. You want stuff from him and he can give you that stuff. Sattvic bhakti is where you convert values into virtues so that you feel God is not separate from you, but you are part of God. You are God. Rishi Kapila shares, and please note this carefully, because most of you, not all of you, but most of you were born in India, in Bharat. When someone feels that divinity is in a murti and not in the person next to you, then that person will never grow. Happy, that person will only live in fear. And I meet too many people whose lives revolve around a ritual and they simply do not serve. They do not serve the people in front of them or the people behind them. Their donations
You should use energy heater.
Sorry, team. We're going to try to use a hot spot. It's 8.
No, self. Come. Should say self.
Self hotspot. Oh,
Yep,
yeah.
and there's the password to it.
Thank you. I apologize. This is the nature of traveling. We're set? Okay, I think this will work now. I'm clear to myself. We'll chant Om once. Oh. As one is being taken from earth to hell, you remember all of your sins. And I thought a lot about this. You know, when you've made a mistake or you've hurt someone, even in a movie, when you watch someone who's really drunk and how they act, and the next morning when they think about things they broke or wherever they are, how sad they feel, correct? Imagine having to relive every pain we caused, every harm we did to ourselves. That would be miserable. Which is why we have to embrace this Upadesha, this advice. And one last thought from Kapila Upadesha. Bhagavan shares who he feels is the best, who he loves the most. And here's the sequence, okay? You should check yourself off too. I'll start from lower to higher, of course. He loves those who study the Veda. So most of us, that check mark is there. Srimad Bhagavatam works. Number 2, those who understand the Veda. So now it's sort of a squiggly, squiggly mark for us. Number 3 is those who appreciate the Veda. It's not just they understand how to read Sanskrit, but they understand the Vedanta part of it. He loves those more who live by the Veda. In other words, those who are dharmic. He loves those more who, as they engage in their responsibilities, they're not focused on deservership. In other words, the pala of I want recognition or reciprocity or people should appreciate me. And he loves them the most who are engaged in their responsibilities, dharma, without deservership and actually without doership. That they're not living by I did, I'm doing, I will do. And subtly, we may not be that person that's focused on I did or I'm doing this, but if you're focusing on what other people are not doing, it's the same, isn't it? Subtly, we're doing the same. Kapila Upadesha will take us from studying the Veda to following the Veda without deservership and doership. This completes Skanda 3. And we won't revisit this anymore, even though we should revisit this again and again and again. Iti tritiyaha skandaha samaptaha Hari Om Tat Sat. Skanda 1 has 19 chapters. Skanda 2 has 10. That's Adhikari and Sadhana. Skanda 3 has 33. This is focusing on Sarga. Skanda 4 has 31 chapters, and this focuses on Visarga. The comparison between 3 and 4, Sarga is, please remember this, Satta Pradhana. In the third skanda, what is created is the fundamentals. The materials are created. In Visarga, this is Rupa Nama Pradhana. The functional is created. Once you have material, you can create forms and names, correct? Without the material, you can't create those forms and names. In a simplistic way, Skanda 3 is creating the clay. Skanda 4 is where you create the pot. You give this shape, you give this a name. Visarga means Vishesha Sarga. It is special creation. Understand, the only Sarga is by Bhagavan Narayana, and everything else is Visarga. In other words, whether it's Bhagavan Brahma or you and I, we're only creating that which is already created. And this is so lovely, because how can you have doership then? I did this, when really this was already done, and I happen to be moving a little bit here and there. It's such a lovely understanding to bring that humility. And Swami Tejamananda had shared, as this skanda began, the relationship between Sarga and Visarga, and he said really all of the skandas is that creation depends on the creator, and the creator depends on you. You are consciousness. Deeper than the creator is your nature. Which is why Raja Parikshita was told to contemplate, and contemplate on what? Swarupa. In Skanda 4, a flow is that of the arthas, the purposes in life. And how many purposes are there? Show me with your hands. Please get this right. Please get this right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I see. As soon as I saw one answer, I closed my eyes so that I generalized we all got the answer right. There's one artha, and the three other arthas are only to facilitate that one artha. The first artha that's highlighted is dharma, and specifically the story of Daksha. In our Veda, there are only two subjects. Those two subjects are dharma and Brahma. Brahma meaning Brahman, infinity. Dharma, throughout the portion of the Veda on dharma, there's a lot of fruits that come with it. And some people think that the purpose of life is those fruits. You become more prosperous, you become more powerful. And the text that I'm reading, Swami Tapasyananda says, it's like an infant who has to take medicine. How do you get them to take that medicine? You give them candy. Correct? You give them candy. And then that infant, all they want is candy, and they don't want that medicine, right? So many of us are like that, that we feel that we should engage in dharma or a ritual, and then God will like us more. And who is the icon of that? Daksha. This is what he feels that dharma is used for. So reviewing this briefly, there's so much, and this is a hard class to teach. The more I teach it, the more difficult I realize this class is. And so if you're finding this difficult to understand, please sympathize with me. and you have to be in this for the long term. Okay? This is breaking away from Preya and invoking Shreya. When Daksha walks into this yajna and all stand up other than Bhagavan Brahma and Bhagavan Shiva, later on Bhagavan Shiva explains why. Bhagavan Brahma obviously doesn't stand up. He's the father of Daksha. But Bhagavan Shiva says, I'm always prostrating to Bhagavan Vishnu in my heart. And I only see Bhagavan Vishnu, so I'm always prostrating to everyone. I don't have to specifically get up for anyone. Now, we all think we're like that too, correct? That's why we don't prostrate to anyone either. If you actually feel that, you don't need to prostrate to anyone. It shows Daksha's shallowness, correct? It's like us going to a party and one person doesn't look at us. That person's a jerk. And we go on making things up about them. After Daksha starts reacting, everyone starts reacting, right? There's curses that are being thrown out all over the place. And the word basta mukha, means you keep saying meh, 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 may you have a head like a goat. So we typically think the word for goat is aja, but in Bhagavatam it's basta. Okay? So the next time you're angry at someone, you say basta mukha. You're acting like a goat right now. If you said that to me, I couldn't help but laugh. And it will work, right? Everyone will stop reacting. You'll just start laughing at each other. Sati Devi, she is the symbol for faith. Daksha is a symbol for logic. And Bhagavan Shiva is a symbol for trust. And see how that faith almost reaches trust, but then goes back to logic. And a lot of our slowdown in our evolution is we're using logic. We're approaching the sacred with a secular mindset, and then we just get burned. So all of this is shown in this episode. And did you know, when Bhagavan Shiva was telling Devi Sati that she shouldn't go to this next yajna, he never told her what her father said about him. She never told her that. And that's so deep, because to go from faith to trust, you have to bring that from yourself, correct? So much in our life is told to us. But to evolve from faith to trust, no one can do that for you. You have to do that through your own experience. And that's why Bhagavan Shiva said, go. Finally, and I'm asking you to do this, if you have the Bhagavatam that I've encouraged you to read Devi Sati's dialogue with Daksha. It makes you love her and Divya Shakti so much. She says to Daksha, you have everything outside, yet nothing inside. Bhagavan Shiva, my Bhagavan, has nothing outside, yet everything inside. And I feel there's a lot of people we meet that are like that, correct? So secure outside and so insecure inside. And others are so secure inside and they don't need security outside. They don't protect everything. Okay? In the beginning of Skanda 4, I told you the main portion about Dharma, to plant that seed. But there's a lot of narration about husbands and wives and kids. Okay, so I'm going to tell you some of this because a lot of the kids are avatars. So one of Raja Manu's and Devi Shatarupa's daughters, her name is Akuti. And you don't have to remember all of this. Just remember the incarnations, okay? Devi Akuti is married to Rishi, Ruchi, and they give birth to Yajna. Yajna is the 8th avatara of Bhagavan Narayana. When we went through that list, Yajna was 8. Now this is, I hope you get this, but you may not. Whenever Yajna is born, what else has to come with Yajna? Dakshina. Born with Yajna, his sister is Dakshina. Yajna and Dakshina are brother and sister. Dakshina is the incarnation of Devi Lakshmi. And the implication of that is, if you're ever in a yajna, you also have to offer Dakshina. And if you're ever offering Dakshina, there has to be yajna there too. They cannot be separate. In our retreat, I was asking all of them, tell me, what is your favorite part of puja? And they all said prasad. And what is your least favorite part of puja? Dakshina. Now, Devahuti, Devi, and Rishi Kardama, I'm going to another family. They gave birth to Anasuya. That was one of their daughters, and I love the name Anasuya. Asuya means the one who finds weaknesses in others' strengths. It's almost like envy. Anasuya is finding strengths in others' strengths. Lovely name. Devi Anasuya marries Rishi Atri, and who did they give birth to? Bhagwan Dattatreya. Bhagwan Dattatreya. Bhagwan Dattatreya is the 7th incarnation in our list, okay? I'm simply following the flow of the text. That's why if these numbers are not in order, it's Bhagwan Vedavyasa's problem, not mine. Now you would like to know, you know who's their other son? Rishi Durvasas. You know the Rishi Durvasa that we always see as being angry and cursing everyone? He's actually Bhagwan Shiva. Did you know that? Rishi Dattatreya is the incarnation of Bhagwan Vishnu. Rishi Durvasa is the incarnation of Bhagwan Shiva. And the word Durvasa means the one who wears dirty clothes. So some of us are Durvasa on Mondays and different days of the week. Now, why he's known as Durvasa is because he doesn't have any body identification. He treats his clothes as his own body, and he's not identified with that. Okay, so don't read comic books that say Rishi Durvasa is always angry. He's Bhagwan Shiva. Okay, next family. Rishi Pulastya had a son whose name was Vishravas. And who were the sons of Vishravas? Kubera, Ravana, Kumbhakarna, and Vibhishana. Okay, this is completing Ramayana. And it's interesting to note the fight between Kubera and Ravana. Yes? See, like when your kids fight, then it's natural. It happens. It happened with them. It will happen with your kids also. And I'll tell you an implication of this. One of the most common questions in this retreat, some of the Devis were expressing that their kids misbehave. And my first response was, which kid doesn't misbehave, right? Any parent that says their kids don't behave well are lying, or they've forgotten about how their kids misbehave. So I was sharing with them, we are 95% vasana, or blueprint. 4% manaha, or mind, and 1% sharira, or body. So when an infant is born into a family, how much of that can you change? The nurture is only 5%. The nature is 95%. And if you know this, you do your best with that 5%, and you leave the rest with the 95%. All worrying ends. All attachment ends. These are really the practical insights. Okay, next family. Another daughter of Raja Manu was Prasuti. So Akuti, Prasuti, and Devahuti. Prasuti and Daksha had a daughter whose name was Murti. And Devi Murti married Rishi Dharma, and their kids were Nara Narayana. Another incarnation is Nara Narayana. They are the 5th incarnation in our list. So now we've gone through 5 and 7 and 8. And you know who Nara Narayana became? Does anyone know by a show of hands? Who did Nara Narayana become for all of us? Nara became Prince Arjuna. Narayana became Bhagwan Krishna. Nara Narayana are eternal. They never leave their embodiment. They are eternal. So right now, in 2020, that is coming, who knows how they'll come? Maybe as a new president, as a new prime minister. Maybe in America and Canada both. One will be Nara, one will be Narayana. One more family, and then we'll briefly study a shloka. Raja Manu's one son. His name was Uttanapada. Uttanapada. And he had two wives, Suniti and Suruchi. Suniti and Suruchi. Uttanapada did not like Suniti. And he exhibited this by liking Suruchi. Okay, everyone's with me? Let's very briefly, because I am required elsewhere, study one shloka, and you'll love this shloka. 4th skanda, 8th adhyaya. So that's 4-8, shloka 54, verse 54. Mantre nanena devasya kurya dravyamayim buddha saparyam vividher dravyehi dashakala vibhagavit. Rishi Narada is telling the lovely boy Dhruva that you should visualize Bhagavan, and as you're visualizing Bhagavan, that you're offering him the best. So the Rupa, but you should also take his Nama, and his Nama is of 12 syllables. So what are those 12 syllables? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This is the advice that's given by Rishi Narada. So how did Rishi Narada show up here? Because he's a wanderer. Wherever there's a fire, he's a firefighter. But how did Dhruva end up there? One day, Dhruva was sitting on his father's lap. And his father was sort of indifferent to him. And Dhruva's brother, his name is Uttama, he had come and sat on his father's lap, and essentially his father had pushed him off, pushed Dhruva off, and started playing with Uttama. And then Uttama's mother, which is Suruchi, she came and started saying, and this is really harsh, you don't deserve to sit there because you were never born in here. Pointing to her own womb that you were never lived here, so you can't live there. Please give me a break. Who would say that to a kid? That you were never born here, so you can't sit there. Say something like, you're not smart, or you don't eat well, or something, but to bring in such biology, such seriousness. And this hurt him a lot. And he never went and told his mother, but his mother found out. And this hurt her a lot, Suniti. And she said, I can't help you. The only one who can help you is Bhagavan Vishnu. And she said, go, find him. And as he's in his sincerity, Rishi Narada finds him and gives him this advice. And now I'm just going to tell you about his tapa. Okay, and we'll continue with more of this next week. As I share this, your raw is that you have to do the same. Okay? Next week, nobody will be in class. We'll all be dead. But here's the raw next. Here's the tapa anyways. In the first month of Dhruva visualizing Bhagavan Vishnu, chanting Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, he only ate fruits. So you're all thinking, yeah, we can do this too. Every 3 days. So every third day, you get to eat fruits. In the next month, he only ate grass. So we can do that too. You know, we're practicing veganism. We can do this every 6 days. So every 6 days, enjoy as much ragweed, sawgrass, darba, kusha, enjoy. In the third month, he only drank water. Every 9th day. We've died already, but I'll continue. In the 4th month, he only breathed every 12 days. And in the 5th month, he stopped breathing. And he shifted from standing on 2 legs to 1 leg. And every time he would move, the whole world's orientation would shift. And nobody could bear this. So they approached Bhagavan Vishnu and said, help us do something about how great this young boy is. Oh.